Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Kamal Al-Khatib, and I will be your host at the Friends of All American Muslim show. In this monthly show at Alameen TV, we host individuals and public officials from all over the United States, and especially from California, who are friends of the Muslims in their community. And today I am honored to have a new friend of the Muslim community in Los Angeles County. We have with us Deputy District Attorney of Los Angeles County and also a candidate for Superior Court Judge seat number 3, Mr. Craig Gold, who will answer your questions live and share his experience with the Muslim community. So please call us at 818-683-1866, and we will answer your questions live with Mr. Gold. Mr. Gold, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for inviting me as a guest today. It's my pleasure to share my experiences and my candidacy as a Deputy District Attorney candidate for LA County Superior Court Judge seat 3 on the June 5th election coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gold, I know you've been a long-time district attorney. We're going to start with your personal life. Then we're going to go to your career, and then we're going to go dig deeper into your expertise. Can you give us a little bit background about your personal life? Where do you live, children, education, so far?
Of course. Yes, I am married. My wife, her first name is Marietta, is Filipino-American, raised in San Diego, and we have twin boys that are 5 years old, Jared and Lucas. We live in the West Los Angeles community. My wife is a healthcare professional in the speech therapy area for Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in the Los Angeles area. And I've been a deputy DA for 22 years, but I am originally from New York. I graduated from Cornell and eventually worked in the labor relations field and moved to San Francisco back in the 1980, and eventually went back for a law degree at night at Golden Gate University and moved to Los Angeles in 1990, where I started as a deputy DA and continue to be a career.
That's my next question to you. If you can tell us about your work experience, where did it start and how did it begin?
Yes, my work experience before becoming a deputy DA is, as I mentioned, graduated from Cornell University in New York State in a background in labor management relations. I worked as a labor negotiator for the flight attendants union in Washington, D.C. for about 2 years, and then was offered an opportunity to work as a corporate labor relations professional for a Hawaiian company called AmFac in San Francisco in 1980. After about a year and a half, I decided to go back for my law degree at night at Golden Gate University while working full-time in the days. And while doing that, I continued working as a personnel director for the Sir Francis Drake Hotel in San Francisco, and eventually moved into working in healthcare management for a company that staffed emergency rooms with physicians all over the country, and moved to LA in 1990 to become a deputy district attorney. In that capacity, I've worked in both criminal and civil work as a prosecutor on behalf of the counties, the people of the state of California, Los Angeles County. I've done many criminal trials, 60 or 70, involving many types of cases from murder to vehicular manslaughter involving drunk driving offenses, to drug offenses, to 3 strikes, to robbery, attempted murder. And now I also am in a special area where I'm involved in civil prosecution of drug traffickers and the seizure of property associated with drug trafficking under a special civil forfeiture law.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about it in more details in one of the questions that I'm going to have with you. And I really appreciate your being in our show today to give the audience here some of the questions that they had in their mind about the judicial system in the United States, how a person become a judge, or how a person can be involved from being an attorney, from being a court clerk even, and becoming a judge. I want to ask you a question about your dealing with the Muslim community. During your career, have you ever had any dealing with the Muslim community in any capacity as a district attorney.
Right. Well,
It's very curious,
right. Yeah. In over 22 years, as one could imagine, I've had cases with just about people from all types of walks of life and ethnicities and backgrounds. However, I don't remember any particular case that comes to mind that involved Muslim, American people, or anyone from the Muslim community in particular that stands out.
Which is good news, right? Yeah, not getting involved in any kind of a problem that requires the district attorney to file something against you. It is good news for any community, and I thank you for that. In the last few years, especially after September 11, there is a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment and what is called Islamophobia, which is fear of Islam. What do you tell these people? What do you think about these people who are spreading Islamophobia and trying to demonize Muslims and the religion of Islam?
Right. Well, I'm going to talk about my personal feelings in general. We are Americans. We're all Americans that live here. America is a mosaic of people that come from other countries. We are a society where we tolerate freedom of religion and faith. Irrespective of what happens in other parts of the world, I am a person who believes that we have to respect each other for our individual rights. We don't have any kind of hysteria. We shouldn't increase any type of hysteria against any group of people, irrespective of any differences, and we have to be respectful of that. And I would condemn any type of individuals that would want to do something like that to cause hysteria against any group for any reason that doesn't justify that on an individual basis.
We do appreciate people like you who believe in the Constitution and believe in implementing the Constitution.
Right.
We have some of the public officials who are in the highest ranking officials who took an oath to an office that they will obey the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state they are serving in, and they're still having to promote anti-Islam, Islamophobia. Especially during their campaign, they're trying to use the campaign as a writing tool for them to reach to their office. What do you tell these people?
Well, I mean, let me just put this
Looks like we got the first call. I'm going to interrupt you. We have Miss Morales from Palmdale. Salam alaikum. What's your name?
Sure, Malaikum Salam. My name is Noemi Morales. I live in Palmdale.
Yes, thank you for calling.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that Greg Gold has my vote. I know he works for the district attorney, and I think he'll make a superb judge.
Very good.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm asking all the brothers and sisters to vote for him. We need someone like him to stand for everyone equal.
Absolutely. Do you have a question for Mr. Gold?
Yes, I just wanted to ask what is his opinion for Islamic people from being discriminated? Would he be, working with us to stop discriminating just by the way we look?
Actually, I was talking to him about that when you called us, so you're reading my mind. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So you heard the question.
Right. Well, let me put it this way. I'm a candidate for a judge. I have friends of all backgrounds. Many of my friends are of Muslim, Christian, Jewish. Of course, my name might tell you I'm from a Jewish upbringing, but my wife is Filipino American and Christians. I'm a person who believes and is respectful of other people. It's all about friendships, relationships, and tolerance of each other, and having common interests. And as a judge, I'm going to stand for that because not only do I have a legal duty under the Constitution, but that is my personal belief. I go into a courtroom and I'm going to be colorblind to anyone. It's only the merits of the case that come before me that would be, and the law that comes before me that would be determinative of what would happen in a courtroom. And I would always maintain a professional decorum, but I'm going to be a person who is obviously sensitive to groups because of past discriminations. And this is true of many, many cultures, not just the Muslim culture, the Jewish culture, the Japanese Americans. We could go through every culture. So that's what makes us so unique in America, because we understand this as a culture. And fortunately, the great number of Americans appreciate that and are open to that.
Very good. So let's back to our question to those officials, even at the highest rank, from presidential candidate all the way to county and school district candidate, who are using their campaign to promote Islamophobia. What do you tell them?
Well, it's clearly inappropriate, and it's not professional, and it wouldn't be something that is in the best interest of anyone. And it could even border on being illegal at times if it was to incite, any
hate.
type of hate or violence.
Yeah.
So it clearly, there are fine lines in the law. But, again, I'm not here to, I'm clearly a judge is a person who has to be over and above the, has to maintain the highest standard and be a person of integrity and independence and fairness. And I want to be that person and stand for that, because that's what I always have been, and I want to be that person. And I'll even maintain the utmost, standard of decency and fairness for everyone, regardless of race or gender or any cultural differences.
Yes, that's my next question about your candidacy for a judge.
Yeah.
Your candidate for superior judge for seat number 3. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. What has happened is that I'm running for seat number 3 of the LA County Superior Court bench, which means it's an open seat. That is what has happened is that a sitting judge has decided to retire. So I'm in one of 3 open seats at the moment. So none of the other candidates are sitting judges. We're all attorneys. And it's in a nonpartisan race. So if one of us is to get a majority of the vote on Tuesday, June 5th, after the election, 50% plus 1 vote, that candidate will become the next LA County Superior Court judge for seat 3. It doesn't mean that they'll sit in a courtroom called seat 3 or replace that judge in that courtroom. You will just be a judge for the County of Los Angeles, and you will be assigned anywhere in the county, criminal, civil, or
even
juvenile.
a small claim?
Probably not likely a small claim. So it's likely that you'll be in one of these other, a court that would require, criminal cases or civil, probate, juvenile, dependency, something of that nature.
Let's clarify to our audience here how the judge become a judge. There is 2 ways to do it. Right. Either by appointment by the governor, correct, or by election by the people, right? That's correct. And you're choosing to go through the system of election because you have an open seat, you have an opportunity. What is your number 1 motivation? Why are you running? Okay. The major motivation is that I feel that after being a prosecutor for over 22 years, both in criminal and civil, and I'm very, very familiar with the court system. I have a lot of friends that are judges themselves, and I have the support of many elected officials. And I was in the business community. I worked, before I was a lawyer, for both on the union side and management. I have a good, broad background, but I feel I can make a major contribution to the court system because, number 1, I want to ensure public safety, and number 2, I want there to be equal access to justice in the courts for all people, and particularly the small business person and the entrepreneur who doesn't have the same resources as the big corporations and the wealthy people. I think we have a video of you in one of the campaign announcing the candidacy, and I think we can see it if the video is ready. We will play it right now. And let's see what you have to say in that announcement.
I stand for the proposition that the court system is only for the wealthy and for the big corporations. We need equal footing for the small business person, the entrepreneur, the person who doesn't have the same resources as the average person who has a lawsuit. I will be that kind of judge who will be proactive in trying to settle cases, to try to reform the system to make it better for all of us in the long run and for the administration of justice. Please vote for me and endorse me, Craig Gold, for seat number 3. Thank you very much.
All right. Very good, Craig.
That was a very short, brief video, but at least it shows that your intention to run and candidacy. A lot of people, when they see the judge ballot, they don't even know who is John from Adam, okay? And they don't know how to vote, where to vote, and so forth. Can you tell the people how they can vote for you if they want to vote for you?
Right. Well, of course, the American way is to go on June 5th. If you need to be a registered voter for LA County, it doesn't mean you could be either registered, and it's a nonpartisan race, which means that you don't have to be necessarily a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, or any other party, or just undecided. As long as you're registered as a registered voter, you have the right to vote for this race, just like any other of the races that are going on June 5th. You could go to your selected poll booth and vote wherever you live, and unless you had filed for an absentee ballot, and you could do that by mail. And in some cases, there may even be permitting an option to register and vote online, but I think that's on a very limited basis.
Some county or some area in the district and some precinct, they have vote by electronic, internet. You go just punch in the county register office.
Yeah, I believe that might be a possibility in some cases, but I haven't heard of it actually being available in LA County at the moment.
But if you want to vote for Mr. Gold, basically in your ballot statement, you will have the ballot statement. You go to your voting poll and you will just select him for seat number 3.
Yeah, it'll say Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge, seat number 3, and it'll have my name as Craig Gold, criminal trial prosecutor.
It's very interesting. I really appreciate the way you're explaining to this. Even I myself, I consider myself a little bit knowledgeable about, election and politics. But the fact that this is an open seat, and the fact one of you has to be getting 50 votes plus 1.
50% plus 1.
50% plus 1, then they will make it the goal.
They will be
qualified.
officially. Yeah, in other words, you will win outright in the primary election, which is June 5th.
June 5th, they have to basically, one of you has to get 50% plus one vote.
Correct.
And that makes them qualify as a judge automatically. They don't have to go to the general election.
Right.
But
right.
if you, 3 of you got less than 50%, then the top 2 will go to the main?
We'll go to the general election in November. Correct. That's
okay.
right. And it's the same as the LA County District Attorney's race.
Looks like we get another call. We have Miss Sadia from Palmdale. Assalamu alaikum, Miss Sadia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Do you have a question for Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Okay, what's your question?
I just graduated from 6th grade, and I want to grow up to be a judge. What does it take for me to be a judge?
That's a very good, ambitious goal, and I congratulate you for that.
Oh, that's great. I commend you with your high ambitions. I'll be honest with you, this wasn't an ambition that I had when I was growing up, but I did have an ambition of wanting to be a lawyer first. So my suggestion is, if you are interested in becoming a judge, you're going to probably want to take courses in leading to you wanting to, in college, in government, and
criminal justice.
In criminal justice, maybe, learning about American government, American history, and the justice system. And you could have any kind of major, actually. You can major even in science. But at some point after you graduate from college, you're going to have to decide if you want to go on to a special graduate program. So assuming you're interested in being a lawyer, you would then want to apply to law school, and you would take what they call the LSATs, LSATs, which is similar to the SATs, which you take when you graduate high school and you're going to apply to college.
You take the LSAT after you finish your 4-year college degree, right?
Correct, that's right, LSATs, and then you're going to, then your grades and your LSATs, and then you'll apply to different law schools. And upon graduating from a law school, you'll then have to take the state bar exam for California, assuming that you're living in this state or any state for that matter. And once you pass that exam, you'll be licensed as an attorney in the state of California. And then Then you'll need to practice law, and you could go into any field of law as you choose. Being a district attorney is just one option, and that's, of course, a public attorney who represents the county, where you're a prosecutor. There are many, many great opportunities in the legal field. You could be a private lawyer, certainly, and work representing people that have had accidents. You could represent, I mean, you name
Corporate
it.
law.
Corporate law.
Malpractice law.
In medical malpractice, or even lawyers have malpractice cases that are not.
I have some actually
Yeah.
more good news for them, because I myself was looking to become an attorney one day, and I had to do a lot of research. And anybody who has a bachelor's degree, no matter what science or art,
Right.
you still can be an attorney as long as you pass the LSAT and join the
That's-
law school and graduate and then pass the bar exam and become an attorney.
That's correct.
And then you will be an officer of the court.
That's right. So
And then you have your steps to go to become a judge.
right now, to lead to becoming a judge, I'll tell you, it requires. I mean, it's. I mean, like everything in life, it has to do with good fortune, and if the opportunity presents itself for you. What's most important is that you have a lot of good legal experience, that you're a very ethical person, you do your job professionally, and your peers respect you and they think that you have a good reputation. Your word is your bond, and you'll find that particularly in everything you do in your professional career, whether it's in business. If you are a person of honor and you have an agreement and you negotiate something and you tell the other lawyer or the other person that this is my offer, and you stand by it, and you don't play games, people will respect you because they know that they could trust you. And that becomes your bond, your word, and how you handle yourself in court and among other lawyers and other clients. And over time, when you gain a lot of experience, you could do what I'm doing, which would be, after so many years of being a lawyer, you could try to get elected if the opportunity presents itself as a candidate, as long as you meet the qualifications of having enough.
Or if you were fortunate enough, you will be appointed by the governor.
Right, or
like I'm very proud to announce to you that the Governor Brown, he appointed the first Muslim judge a couple months ago. I don't recall the name, but he was from your department. Can you tell us about this individual?
Well, I tell you the truth. I know that this happened very recently. There is a gentleman in my office who I don't know very well. I think we're just acquaintances, but I'm very proud to hear that he was appointed by Governor Brown. What I know of him, he's a very fine individual who's well respected in the legal community and among his peers, and I think he'll be a very fine, jurist in the bench. And I'm happy to hear that it's someone that's from the Muslim community, because you need symbols,
Representation.
just like representatives that are going to be people that will stand out as role models in the future, and that's what life's all about, to represent the best of people, in the justice system.
And the difference between the appointment versus elected.
Right.
If you were appointed by the governor, basically you will fill up the seat, unexpired term. You will finish whatever left over from that term.
Right.
And then when it's times for the election, you have to run for that seat.
Correct.
So it's not like forever you're going to get there.
Right, yeah.
Get a freebie one time.
Right. In the state courts, and particularly California, we have 6-year terms for a state superior court judge. And when your term is up, you have to register again to run for re-election. Now, fortunately, in the great majority of times, most sitting judges run unchallenged, so they may not have to be on the ballot. But we have some races now where some sitting judges are being challenged, and there is a campaign to run for re-election. But the same thing would be true as if you're appointed by the governor's office, and you would have a 6-year term.
It gives you the power of incumbency.
Right. Well, there's definitely strength when any political figure who's in an office, whether it's a judge or anyone that's elected, is always going to have strength in being an incumbent. Right.
Yes. Mr. Gold, I'm going to ask you some questions about, I'm not going to say if, I'm saying when you become a judge. What improvements and additions to your courtroom you're going to bring, and how?
Okay. Well, as I might have mentioned before, what's very, very important right now is that we're facing major budget cuts to the state. As everyone knows, we're all facing very, very tight economic conditions. Unemployment's very high. And similarly, the courts are being cut. Court staff we're losing. Those are court reporters, court clerks. They're closing courts down, juvenile courts. So the court system is definitely in a crisis mode right now. What's very important for me is I stand for two things, two major issues: public safety, and again, having equal access to justice for all people, irrespective of the limited resources that people may have when they have lawsuits in the civil courts. And public safety being number one. Governor Brown, who's trying to balance the budget and do whatever he can to make it, has a law called AB 109, which is called the realignment law. And for those that may not be too familiar, but it's been in the papers, Governor Brown has this law that's in effect that would result in saving the state millions and millions of dollars by transferring the so-called less violent felon, who may not have committed murder or robbery, but would be like a drug trafficker, for example, that would be someone that was convicted, that's serving a state prison sentence, but they're going to be released and transferred to the county jails.
I have some reservation about that. We're going to talk about it some.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we have another call from Palmdale. Palmdale is very popular.
Oh.
Okay, we have Mrs. Zina on line 1. Salaam alaikum. Salaam alaikum.
Michael, sir.
Your name is Zina?
Yes,
Do you have a question for Mr. Gold?
I do.
What's your question?
I'm a student at ABC, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on the Sharia law ban that was passed in Kansas.
Sharia law banned in Kansas. The law that bans implementation of Sharia law in the city, in the state of Kansas.
Right. Well, I'm not, to be perfectly honest, I'm not that familiar with that.
I will elaborate on that. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
We'll give you the answer. Right now, there's a lot of states in the United States, they are implementing ban on Sharia law, the Islamic law,
Right.
meaning the Muslim in their state cannot practice their religion freely, including the way their burial, because that's their burial, their marriage, and their relationship with each other. And the Sharia law in the United States, in California, we are allowed to implement, like if somebody divorces his wife and he wants to apply the Sharia law, he can go to the Superior Court judge and say, I want my case to be tried as according to my contract that I married on, which is according to Islamic law. And they will respect that. Banning the Sharia law will prevent the Muslims, or if they ban a different law, it could ban any particular group who are affected by that. So the Sharia law is the Islamic law that particularly, because our constitution guarantees our freedom of religion. When you're taking that portion of that constitution, you're basically discriminating. And I have some good news for you. Several states in the United States have actually implemented Sharia law. It was overturned by the Superior Court in their state, and it has been proven because it violates the Constitution. So that's, if it comes to before you as a Sharia law ban, would you support anything like this?
Well, I'm gonna let me step back a little bit. First of all, I have very, very little knowledge of it about that particular issue. Plus, when there's issues that deal with things of legislative nature, it's not appropriate for someone like myself, ethically, as a candidate, to discuss, how would I rule on this type of issue, because it's not before me. Plus, I don't want to prejudge.
So there is a lot of more involved in
Yeah, and I don't know the details. And if anything came before me like that, I would have to read the law and understand.
I appreciate your honesty and candidacy, because in our religion we have a saying. It says, "Man qala la a'lam faqad afta," meaning that if you say that I don't know, you already gave your answer. We don't need to elaborate some more, because that's more. I would rather have you tell me I don't know and I have not enough information, rather give me some answer that might not be an accurate answer.
Right.
So I really appreciate your candidacy on that. So we're back to we're back to the improvement that you're going to add to your court system, and we got interrupted by the question. So let's go back to that question.
Right. So finishing up with the public safety issue is a very deep concern that many of these felons that are going to be released from the prisons that are drug traffickers, as a good example, are going to go to the county jails to supposedly finish out their term, but the county jails are overcrowded. And the county jails are run by the sheriff's department of our county, like they are probably in most of the other counties of the state. Because of overcrowding, that means that there's a likelihood that these convicts that pose a great risk to the community can be released early and may not even serve more than a fraction of the time. And we don't, this is a big, big problem, and we don't have a clear understanding of how this law is going to work. And so you need judges like myself that understand the criminal system that are going to work to make sure that these people that have been convicted of crimes such as selling cocaine on the street or heroin, dangerous things that could pose a great risk out there, should be monitored by either being in drug rehab programs, electronic monitoring. We need to have alternative sentencing to make sure that these people may not commit even greater crimes on the street to us, our children, and our community.
So basically you support releasing of these, prisoners who did not commit violent crimes?
No, I didn't say I agree with that. I'm saying this is the current law in effect.
Do you agree with it?
Oh, am I in agreement with? I'm not going to make a comment about that because I don't. I think there's a lot of questions about it right now. I'm concerned about the consequences of the law and how the judicial system is going to work with it. I have to talk in a practical sense.
I will tell you that we had a live example 2 months ago in the Antelope Valley. A criminal was released in parole. He killed somebody just right after he was released. If that person was still in jail, no crime would have been committed.
Right.
So that's why I am hoping and I'm praying that our governor and our public official, our sheriff, will think twice before they release anybody like this. And I have really a major problem with that because I think criminals belong in jail, and whether they're violent or not, because a lot of times they're not violent, but what they do really leads to violent action.
Yeah. Well, again, we need to look at each case on a case-by-case basis. We're talking about individuals. There are individuals that have committed nonviolent crimes.
Looks like we got another call from Sister Lucia from Lancaster. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Lucia. You have a question for Mr. Gold?
Well, welcome, Islam. Yes, I have a question. My question is,
Go ahead.
what do you think California? Do you think California should would benefit from revoking the death penalty?
California will benefit from revoking or suspending the death penalty?
On the ballot, yes.
That's a very good question.
Again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me see if I know people have questions about very
I know they're putting you on the spot.
Controversial
That's
questions.
why judges, they have to make tough decisions, right?
Yeah. But a judge is, again, I can't give you my opinions on issues that could come before me. A judge has to uphold the law and do it fairly and justly. And I'm not going to be in a position to tell you what my thoughts are about the death penalty issue or this or that. I mean, I've been a prosecutor for many years, and the death penalty is in effect in the state of California. I am duty.
You personally, do you support death penalty? Personally?
As a person?
Not as a judge.
Okay.
Personally.
My personal feelings are I'm not a fan of the death penalty for a variety of reasons. But I will uphold the law if I'm required to do that as a judge. But I'll just leave it at that.
I will tell you that death penalty in California is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Somebody goes on death penalty and he stays on death penalty for 20 years. How much the state pays for that person? Millions and millions of dollars. If we want to have a law that is appropriate and effective, we should keep it. If we are going to have a law just to keep draining our state budget and our state, take it from education and public safety, we need to think about it. And, you know, I support the death penalty myself, but in California, I don't think it's working because there are too much, you know, time is spent and money and resources that we badly needed for other resources. I don't want to spend millions on somebody who is not benefiting the community. Do you
Right.
agree with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are studies that are being done all the time, and there's certainly a lot of studies that indicate that the death penalty, certainly in other countries and in Europe, has been eliminated, and like it has in some states. California has it on the books. It's not implemented in kind of the way that most people would realize. But it's always been discriminated. It has discriminatory impact in many cases. It's not been applied equally and fairly for everyone. Plus, you have many people on death row, and there's economic issues that you just addressed.
You know, so just to answer
Yeah.
the sister, I think California will benefit a lot from revoking or suspending the death penalty. Even I'm not a big fan
Right.
of that
Right.
because the way it is written right now, or the way the system is working, you have to appeal after appeal after
Yeah.
appeal. It just drains
Right.
every penny that we have
Right.
on that. So
Right.
that, yes, California will benefit, and I would support it myself if that happens, or revisited or amended and somehow
Right.
to make it more
But
efficient.
to put this a little bit in proper perspective also is that you have there are those cases of serial killers. There are those
They deserve it.
sociopathic people that those are the people that I think most of us would agree that the death penalty, I think, was designed for in certain circumstances. So I want to be objective and look at it from both points of view, but there is other deficiencies and problems with the way the law has been implemented. And
You know, time is running like crazy. We already have 35 minutes, and we are not even halfway through with all of the information that we need to relate to our audience here. You've been supported by so many people, public officials, and individuals who support you. And we have some pictures of some of these individuals and supporters. I like to play them, and if we are ready, let's go for that. And then we can elaborate on who are these people and how. Okay, you can talk over the pictures.
This is a picture of District Attorney Steve Cooley. That's a picture of Governor Jerry Brown a couple of years ago. This was at one of my campaign events, some friends and supporters. This is Ray Bishop, who is a campaign manager. This is actually a picture of my wife and another friend at one of the events. And again, other supporters and friends at an event, more friends that were at an event. This was an event in Alhambra. This is my wife and some attorney friend and some other friends again at other events.
Looks like you got a big support in the Filipino community from your wife's side.
This is Jerry West, the former great Laker player. This is an attorney friend of mine and his girlfriend. This is another person who I took a picture with, a friend.
Yeah,
This is
you have
again-
also endorsement from Mr. Cooley, the district attorney.
That's correct.
And you have an endorsement from Sheriff Lee Baca.
That's correct.
We have endorsement from John Chang, the
John
state
Chang,
controller.
the California State Controller, John Chung.
That's pretty hefty endorsement.
Thank you very much. Yeah, they're bipartisan support, people that I've known for a long time that even come to a lot of my campaign events because they are strong supporters of my candidacy, know me very well, and trust me and know that I'll do an excellent job as a judge.
Looks like we got another call from Alia Santa Clarita. You see, our audience are all over. So, Assalamu alaikum, Alia.
Alaikum salam.
You have a question for Mr. Gold?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Gold, well, as a 19-year-old college student and a newcoming voter, what would persuade me to vote for you as opposed to the other candidates?
That's a tough question, huh?
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much for your call.
Okay, well, I am in a race with 4 other people, and I will tell you that I am the LA County Bar, which is one of the rating companies that rated us for our suitability, found just 2 of the candidates in our race of the 4 to be qualified, that being me and another gentleman in the race. And I have over 22 years of legal experience in the courtroom, along with a lot more experience as being someone in the business community before I was a lawyer, and I have a lot more life experience. I'm in my mid-50s, married. So being a judge, you have to have a type of judicial temperament, understanding of the law, understanding the courts, and life experiences, because life is very gray. It's not as black and white as some people might think. So you want someone who's going to has good intuition, good understanding of the facts. If they have to make a ruling on the law, or even a ruling on a trial, that you're going to, the type of person who could listen to testimony and make decisions on the credibility of people, and someone who understands and likes people and understands relationships, and has the kind of understanding that I have, and I think the type of background and qualities that will make a good judge. So I think I would be the most qualified of the 4 people.
So the judge, basically, he has to clarify, is like the eye doctor, clarify the vision of the case, to sort out the colors and make sure that it is very, very clear to everybody where the winning party.
Right. A judge many times is almost like a referee in a sports match. The decision on a trial is usually a jury in the American system. That's the trier of fact in most cases. Now, occasionally, the lawyers choose to have a judge make that decision. But in the great majority of cases, it's going to be a jury of your peers that are selected by the lawyers and their clients. The judge is going to be making decisions in the trial as a referee on what are the type of rulings that are appropriate, on what evidence should come into the trial, whether or not certain prior information on someone's criminal history should come in. To make the trial fair, he has to make sure that the case is done in a proper, just, and fair way, so that the defendant has a fair trial in a criminal case, as well as if it's a civil case and someone's suing someone for damages because of a breach of contract, that the law is appropriately fitted, and that the evidence is appropriate for the case.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to so when we have a civil case or criminal case,
Right.
the people have the right for a judge ruling or jury ruling.
That's correct.
If you choose a jury to rule for you and to rule on the case, the judge basically cannot override the jury.
Well,
Or can he?
the judge can. There is legal authority for a judge to override a jury's verdict.
I'm not talking about a mistrial.
No. I'm talking about a verdict.
Overrule of the verdict.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, there is, the judge does have some authority, but it's rarely used, because there would have to be compelling evidence or facts that would lead a judge to overturn a ruling by a jury. Because the jury's role is to listen to the facts. Before it even gets to a trial, if that case doesn't have sufficient evidence for it to even go to a trial, whether it's, let's say, in a criminal case, that there's not enough evidence to even for the elements of the crime to even be set in a trial, that case should never even go to trial. It should be dismissed way before then.
Absolutely.
So therefore, if it's going to a trial, the jury makes a ruling. The judge doesn't want to be in a position to abuse his discretion to overrule what the constitutional jury system is all about. They made a ruling on, they make a decision on the believability of witnesses and everything else. So a judge...
He will compromise the system, actually.
Right.
And the credibility of the
Right.
the jury system in general.
Right.
So it's very rarely happen.
It's rarely happens. It has to be a very, very unusual, extenuating circumstance case for that to happen. Yeah.
My goodness, man, we have a lot of questions left, and we we have 15 minutes. I want to talk about, you've been with the district attorney office for 22 years as a deputy district attorney. Out of these 22 years, you had a program that you are part of, they called Asset Forfeiture Unit. You've been working there for 10 years. Can you give us an idea? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I've been, as I mentioned before, I've been working for the district attorney's office for over 22 years, and in that time I've been doing criminal cases, and I went into the asset forfeiture unit for a while. Then I came back. Now I've been in the asset forfeiture unit for a number of years. This is what they call the civil asset forfeiture unit. It relates to there is a law in California, like it is in other states and in the federal government, where police officers during their narcotics trafficking investigations have the right to seize cash, vehicles, and sometimes other property.
Or could be a traffic stop.
Well,
sometimes.
Well, in other words, what leads to the seizure of the money or the car has to be traced to being either believed to be illegal drug trafficking proceeds, or that the car or the money was being used to facilitate drug trafficking. So the police have the right to seize that property. Seizing it doesn't mean it's going to be forfeited. It means that then they would submit that case to my unit where I work, and I would look at it and see if there is a legal basis for that money to be subject to forfeiture under the law. Okay, but there's a whole legal procedure to give people that are the subjects of the investigation to have the right to contest that forfeiture. Right.
So basically, you're the one a judge without being a judge at this time. An officer make arrest, if I submit the file to you for review to see if the actually forfeiture policy applies here or not. Was the procedures correct? Did they have the proper paperwork or warrants or whatever they needed? And then you sort out whether this money belongs to belongs to the criminal or belongs to a third party or somebody.
Right.
Isn't that what you do?
Yeah. So to make it a little bit more simple, so let's say, for example, the police are up in Van Nuys and they have a search warrant because they have evidence signed by a judge that there's someone selling cocaine out of a house in Van Nuys, for example. And the police execute the search warrant at the house, and in the house they find the subject, who happens to be the son, who's living in a family house with his parents, and they find that in his room he has a certain amount of cocaine. They arrest him for possession for sale of cocaine, and they also find in the room $25,000 in cash, very close to where the drugs are found. And let's say other property is found that appears to be traced to the drug trafficking of the son. In the meantime, what would happen is that case, there would be a criminal case filed against this individual. That would go in the criminal court, and then the police would submit the $25,000 that was seized, believed to be drug money, to my unit. It would be put into a special trust account, a bank account through the DA's office, and they would submit the reports to us to consider whether to file a separate action against the money. So it would say this people of the state of California versus $25,000 in U.S. currency. We would then serve notice of forfeiture upon the defendant and possibly other family members in the house in case they claim that that money belongs to them and it's innocent money that has nothing to do with the son's drug trafficking. And that would give them an opportunity under due process of law to file a judicial form called a claim opposing forfeiture with the court and send us, the DA's, a copy. So then we would then be in a position to look.
Your position is so important. You're saving the taxpayers a lot of money by not going to trials that we might lose as people. When the district attorney files a lawsuit or a claim against this money, the forfeiture of money that she seized, and they might have a small, weak case, we might actually go through a very, very lengthy, costly trial, and we lose it. So basically, you're saving a lot of money for taxpayers, and that's another thing that you will do probably the same way in your office as a judge.
Absolutely. In fact, what's interesting is the type of skills that you have as a lawyer. It's not always going to trial. The court system is overburdened with trials, certainly in the criminal area and in civil. Civil being non-criminal matters where people sue because of a breach of contract in an employment situation, or someone gets hurt and they sue a party because they believe they were negligent in causing the accident. There's a lot of lawsuits. We're in a very litigious country, and certainly state of California and
A lot of them are frivolous too.
And there's frivolous actions too. Now, my job in this area is to fetter out, to look at what are the good cases and the strong cases, and then cases that are gray. And my job is to be very sensitive to people where the police might have seized money, not wrongfully in a deliberate way, but maybe
Negligent way.
maybe, well, I don't even want to say negligent. Well, they were doing their job, and they thought the money was illegal money, but sometimes some innocent money might be swept up, and my job is to screen through that. And when people come forth and say that money belongs to me, I want to give them the fullest and fairest opportunity to show me that that money belongs to them. And when they do, that money is returned to them. I don't want to go to trial and take away money that belongs to someone that should be innocent.
Because definitely trials are very, very expensive and costly.
Well, yeah, and we don't try these cases unless we have no choice. So we want to save the taxpayer a lot of money. We want to be fair. We want to do this. And it takes the kind of skills that I have that knows how to settle, negotiate, and work with people. And that's what kind of judge I'll be. I'll be very proactive in trying to settle cases where possible, to try to prevent cases going to trial unless there's no choice. But I want to get to the meat of the case, to the issues, you know.
Okay, it looks like we got another call from Miss Pam from Glendale, line 1. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello?
Assalamu alaikum. Do you have a question for Mr. Gold?
Yeah, I was listening to the part about the seized money and forfeiture and everything.
Yes.
Does there have to be a paper trail to the money? Because, like, what if somebody's just been saving for something and they don't have, like, a paper trail for their money, and then this whole forfeiture thing happens? How do they prove that it's theirs? What kind of proof is necessary?
Okay.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is a very good question. I'll try to explain the procedure a little bit. This is a civil area, okay, meaning that it's, although it's related to a criminal arrest in a criminal case, it's a separate procedure. What happens is, when someone files a claim opposing forfeiture, let's say it's the father of a criminal defendant's son who is selling narcotics out of the house, but the father claims that part of the money or some of the, or all the money belonged to him and it was legitimate money. What we do is we send out what they call civil discovery. This is part of the civil procedure. We send out a series of questions and requests for documents to the party called the claimant to answer the questions under penalty of perjury and to show us what their, in other words, to substantiate what their claim is, that their money comes from a legitimate source.
So basically, if you have money that is untraceable and you have submit an affidavit or something, and the district attorney believes you are an honest person, and he can see that you have ability to save that money,
Right.
most likely they will be
that we're gonna,
convinced.
right. In other words, the DA is going to, I would, as a DA, try to return that money to you.
Looks like we got another call from Anna in Lancaster. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, alaikum assalam. Hello.
You have a question for Mr. Gold, sister?
Yes, I do. I'm wondering if you support California's felony murder rule. My understanding is that California is one of the few states that still uses this rule, guilt by association. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Is that clear?
Yeah, no, I think I understand.
Thank
Again, I have to be very, very careful. I'm not here to to try to, you know, I'm a judge.
We're going to ask you to answer it as
personally,
not as a judge.
I'm going to try to do. I mean, as a prosecutor,
As a voter, okay?
Well, I'm going to uphold the law as I see it, and the felony murder rule is something that is in the books, and So if someone commits a felony, like robbery or burglary of a house, and ultimately a person in the house is killed because of related to the initial crime of burglary of a house, and the victim is killed by the perpetration of a suspect that is charged. I mean, that is the law in California. That is, now I don't know what you mean by association. That's a little unclear. If someone is outside the house and didn't commit the burglary and happened to be a friend of this person, it doesn't mean that they're going to be charged with felony murder. So, I mean, everything is factually based. It's dependent upon what the facts are and how those facts come out in what they call a preliminary hearing to establish whether or not there's enough evidence to hold someone for trial for those charges. So you have to look at everything in a very specific way and understand what the law is, and that's what a judge is going to do.
You know, we have almost 3 minutes left. I have two questions for you. One of them is, as we said earlier, I have talked to you about education. I think you have a passion for education. As a judge, would you open your chamber, your courtroom to students and internship?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, being a judge is not just being a judge in a courtroom. And from my point of view, we need our courts to be open just like the American court system. And I want to be someone that, of course, has to keep up with the law all the time, just like lawyers do. But we want to educate the public on how the courts work, and we want students to come in and watch the judiciary system. It's very important because they understand the system, and it's important for students to see the value of what we do because we might encourage them to become lawyers and judges one day themselves. When they see the process, you see it a little bit on TV, but TV is, tainted for entertainment purposes. But when you really see a courtroom, whether you're in elementary school or junior high school or high school or college, it's valuable because this is our system. This is what makes the justice system work. The courts, the juries. So you need to do that. And education is very important for everyone to see what it's like.
You know, some of our Muslim community members, they are in the process of becoming attorneys. They are in the process of becoming, in the court system. How do you encourage him, or what advice do you give him to be to help him to motivate himself to be involved in the district attorney, being a district attorney, or being a judge? What advice do you give him?
Yeah, well, if one wants to become a district attorney, obviously what's very, very important is that you understand that a job of a prosecutor is that you're going to be assigned cases where you're going to put on evidence in courts to determine whether there's enough evidence to hold a person for trial, whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor. The procedures are a little bit different than that. And you have an ethical duty and a duty to seek justice for all. And you have a duty to provide all evidence to the defendant and to the attorney to make sure he has all the evidence, relevant evidence that you have in your possession, because you are the government bringing the charges. So you have to understand the importance of fairness and justice so that the defendant has all the evidence that you have, with exceptions of certain confidential information that may not go to the defendant on different legal grounds that a judge would make rulings on. But in general, if you want to become a prosecutor, you have to think in that kind of way, that you're not there just to get a conviction, you're there to seek justice and fairness.
Yes. Mr. Gold, time is running very quick, and I want you to tell the audience your final thought, your final words, how to help you in your getting elected in June 5th.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the All-American Muslim community here, Friends of the All-American Muslim community. I am running for seat number 3 of the LA County Superior Court, Tuesday, June 5th. I believe that you will be very proud to have me elected as a judge to this community, because I am the type of person who's open-minded, experienced, with the type of temperament and the type of friendships and relationships with people that will understand and be sensitive to your community and all communities alike. because I understand the importance that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that's what I stand for, and I will execute that. And I believe that if you elect me, you'll be proud of me, and you will see results that will improve for all of us in this community, in the judicial system. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gold, thank you very much for being a friend of the Muslim community. I want to thank all of our audience today for watching our Friends of All American Muslim show. This show is lining up some public official. One of them is Loretta Sanchez, a congresswoman from the Orange County, and also Judge Gray. He's a nominee for the Libertarian Vice President candidate. And we are going to have these shows in the near future. And I appreciate your calling us. And I want you to know that Alameen TV needs your help. Please send your donation by logging to alameentv.com and make your contribution. This is education for Muslim and non-Muslim about our religion, about our community, about everything we do in this television. Thank you, and may Allah bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.